Welcome to This Is My Architecture. Today we are in Zurich, Switzerland. And I'm here with Stefan from Appway.
Thanks for having me.
Stefan, what is Appway doing?
At Appway, we help financial service institutions to manage their complex customer relationships. To do so, we provide pre-assembled yet adaptable business web applications. Our onboarding solution, for instance, is used by major banks to open a new relationship every 30 seconds.
Interesting. And why are you moving to the cloud?
Our core technology already helps customers eliminate lengthy development of complex bank workflows. And with our SaaS offer, we now want to achieve the same for the deployment part. We see an increasing appetite in banks and other financial institutions to use cloud. However, these customers usually have very tough security requirements, which then dictate constraints on the cloud architecture.
I see. Let's talk about these constraints. So I assume that you have to achieve a strong customer isolation. How do you do that?
Exactly, yeah. We use AWS organizations for that to set up and manage a dedicated account for every customer. Every AWS account then gets its own cloud resources, whether it's compute instances, network devices, or storage. This gives us maximum control, but also a lot of flexibility. For instance, if a customer asks for a penetration test or another security assessment, we can give them tailored access to their own account.
Got it. And with so many AWS accounts, I guess, across different AWS regions, how can you ensure that you have consistent policies across of them?
We use AWS Control Tower with guardrails for this. It helps us manage policies, which we then apply to all the different accounts. So we can enforce compliance with our security policies and best practices. For example, we can guarantee strong encryption on all the EBS volumes attached to all the EC2 instances.
So you just mentioned EBS volumes, EC2 instances. Can you show us the actual application that you deploy?
Yeah, at its core, Appway is a Java-based web application that runs on an Apache Tomcat server. The front end is built with React, so it's 100% pure HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. The backend is all Java with Jersey as REST framework. Internally, we then use Hazelcast, which allows us to connect multiple Appway instances to one Appway cluster. So Hazelcast allows us to distribute data across the cluster nodes, execute distributed tasks, or manage cluster-wide logs.
Very good. So you mentioned that you have a multi-node cluster here. How can you build such a cluster on AWS?
Mm-hmm. We typically set up 3 or more Appway cluster nodes, each running on a separate Amazon Linux EC2 instance in different availability zones. On top of that, we then deploy an application load balancer, which does all the request routing and the SSL offloading. And at the backend, we connect all the Appway cluster nodes to one single elastic file system, which acts as central cluster storage and can grow as it's required. For user authentication, we then interact or integrate with Cognito through OpenID Connect.
Oh, that's great. So you basically offload the whole authentication flow to Amazon Cognito.
Exactly, and I really love its flexibility. Customers can start very simple and manage their users directly in Cognito, while they already get all the advanced features like multi-factor authentication. Later, they can make a transition into a more sophisticated setup where we then federate Cognito with the customer's own identity provider like Microsoft Active Directory or Okta, to name some.
Yeah, and that's actually a very common use case. How can you connect to the identity provider of your customer when such a system is not available on the public internet?
Whenever we have to access a system that runs inside a customer's network, like an in-house data center or so, we set up a dedicated site-to-site VPN connection. It then also gives us access to other third-party applications like a core banking system or a document archive.
Got it. So Thanks a lot, Stefan, for showing this application that you deploy now. Talking about operations, how do you deploy the application? How do you manage that? And how can you also manage the AWS accounts that you have?
Our cloud automation team has built a serverless management tool for this purpose. It's a React-based single-page application which is hosted in S3. It then interacts through API gateway with AWS Lambda functions. So these functions are then used to execute various tasks across all the environment. Things like setting up a new AWS account, provision a new Appway cluster, install software updates, or make configuration changes. Whenever possible, we use DevOps tools like Terraform or Puppet to manage the whole infrastructure as code. There are, of course, many more AWS services involved in that behind the scenes, like AWS Single Sign-On, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, or Key Management Service, to mention some.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Stefan, for sharing your architecture with us today.
It has been a pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
And thanks for watching. This is my architecture.